I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole for July 14th, 2026 at 6:10 p.m. Attendance roll call.
Alderpersons Wolf,
Here.
Hamel,
Here.
Bellows,
Here.
Bryce,
Here.
Schrader,
Here.
Dilge,
Here.
Madden.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law on Friday, July 10th, 2026.
Thank you. New business. Discussion regarding comprehensive study of EMS and fire services completed by innovative public advisors. So tonight we have Jess Wilds, Jay Shambo, and Paul Stevenson to present the study that we commissioned them to look into last spring. I'm going to tell you that the report that they're going to give you is their report. They were not given any specific predetermined outcome, no direction. I know they interviewed a number of people throughout the community and got input from that. This is not a it's kind of like legal advice. They're going to give us their opinion. We can take it, we modify it, ignore it, but it's a professional, unbiased, outside opinion of where we are, and they make some recommendations on how to move forward. You know, I would look at this as two different things when it comes forward, when they make the presentation. One is demonstrating, you know, if we have a need to make any changes. That's one thing to look at, and then the second part is our you know, what changes do we need to make and how do we go about doing that? So they're going to make their presentation starting now, and then we'll have lots of opportunities for questions, discussions. We'll get some input from the crowd and the community that's here. And the next agenda item would be if we are going to make any changes on how we can, Barb, could you maybe give them a hand? If we are going to make any changes on ways that we might be able to fund that. So without further ado, as soon as we get them hooked up here, they will start. For those of you that are in the crowd, this copy of this report is online, so you should be able to download it and get a copy there. And if you have any questions or need, if you don't have access to online, contact my office and I can get you a copy of the report. Yeah, I believe so.
Barb.
Barb?
She's coming by.
Right.
I don't know which one it is off the top of my head. I usually. Yeah, I think it's turning on. There she goes. Okay, I did not realize.
All right. Think they're all up. Thank you. The floor is yours.
I'll start with thank you. My name is Jay Shambo. Be a quick introduction of our team.
Is this microphone?
Oh, is that my on top? There should be a switch on the top of that.
There you go.
Check. Sorry about that. Now it's a hole. Nope.
Hold hard.
It does fall.
It'll probably reach. Can you hear me now? I'll just hold it. I'll start with introduction of our firm and our team and myself. My name is Jay Shambo. It's a pleasure to be before you this evening, Mayor and alderpersons. Thank you for your service. Thanks for serving your community. You don't hear that often enough. We've all worked in the public sector. We know how thankless at times those roles are, your roles are. We want you to know that you're appreciated by your community more often than they tell you that. You're appreciated by individuals that come and present to you, folks that are in attendance and in the audience. Might be a critical conversation that you're having on most topics, but thanks for putting your name on a ballot and for representing your community. So we'd like to start with that. I sincerely mean that. I worked a life's work in local government for city, county, and villages, serving as a planning director and an administrator before entering Innovative Public Advisors as a partner. Jess Wilds is also a partner with Innovative Public Advisors and has significant experience in marketing and background in local administration, communications as well. And Paul Stevens, our fire expert, former fire chief for the city of Hartford, spent a career's worth of work and then some in that field, and is our resident expert. So I just wanted to start with a thank you and a brief introduction. It's been our pleasure to be a part of your study for this very important project. Really applaud you for taking the effort to do this now, to do this while you're in a well-run situation with a volunteer group. And I see the tax numbers, and we've been impressed by how low and how cost-effective this service has been, and your entire community has provided services over the years. It's really impressive to see somebody taking a proactive look at it before things are broke and or dismantled. You're not doing that. You're doing that in advance of that, and really trying to get ahead of the game. So I'll be a part of the discussion and can answer questions that you might have at some point. But we'll get through our presentation and then maybe take all the questions. And Mayor, if this is committee of the whole and the community is involved in asking questions, like we're okay with that too. If it's totally your call, obviously it's your meeting.
Again, I'm Paul Stevens, and I did spend a career as a fire chief, 35 plus years, and I enjoyed getting to know the Test Corners Fire and Rescue Department and other members of your city. I did do quite a few interviews with the key stakeholders that were directly involved with the operation. That was completely my focus in interviewing fire department administration, the board of directors, police department, neighboring fire departments, fire chiefs, and communications center, as well as some staff from City Hall. What we found was Test Corners Fire Department is doing a remarkable job with the system that they operate under. I came from a similar system that evolved through the years, and I know how difficult it is to keep up with the increased demands on the volunteer fire and EMS service. Due to some really, really dedicated people that you have, not only in your fire department, but also on their board of directors, it's quite frankly amazing that they're still as reliable as they currently are. And they celebrated their 100th anniversary of being involved in the fire service, and I commend them on that. And I'm pretty sure they had a pretty significant structure fire today, and we can't go without mentioning going out in 102-degree weather like this today and putting your gear on and stopping what you're doing and responding. So kudos to them. I'll get into a little bit in a little bit later on the findings of the report, but Jess is going to just explain our approach.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, everybody. We approached this project as objectively as possible. That was our goal. Like your mayor said, there was no predetermined outcome of what it would be. We came in from a very much outside perspective to learn about what's happening, the history of the department, what's happening currently, and sort of look at what trends are taking place so that we can make some recommendations moving forward to ensure that service delivery continues at the pace and the quality that your residents have come to expect and that they deserve. So we took a proactive approach to interviews. We really stuck to personnel of the department, key stakeholders within your city staff team, the mayor, and even some surrounding agencies and chiefs and others to get those perspectives and to learn more about, how they collaborate, how they call upon each other, all of that type of information. We reviewed a lot of documentation, budgets, reports, heat maps, call data, every type of document that we could get our hands on, and did analysis. And then we would talk through that even with staff to understand, to make sure that we were knowing sort of the landscape of the department, where it's been, where it is today. Do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
You let me know.
Sure. Well, we can pass it off here. What we found is that you have a really strong department, and that, like Paul said, it's amazing that they've been able to continue to provide the service that they have, given the structure that's in place, and also the challenges that they face today. So it's a functional system, but we can also see that it is fragile, and we can see some things coming down the road that are going to be a challenge that if you proactively address them now, we think you can get ahead of that.
Yeah, I think in the study you'll see functional yet fragile system used quite often. And when we refer to a fragile system, I guess I'd like to just define that as vulnerable to or having a wrench thrown into the system, whether it's one or two of the key members of the department that does so much, or whatever it may be. Could be an illness, could be a retirement. We recognize that it's vulnerable for having something either expected in the future or unexpected soon. And, so I'm mainly talking about succession planning. I think anybody that has been involved in a volunteer organization understands the old saying that 10% of the people do 90% of the work. I know that it might not be exactly that here, but without a few really key stakeholders in the fire department, I think some of your vulnerabilities would be exposed on an emergency, and that's when you don't want that to happen. Supervisory structure, as you increase staffing paid on premise at the station, I think it would be really beneficial to have some supervisors leading the vision of the department, leading the day-to-day operations, and someone around all the time. And then strategic planning, I felt like there was an opportunity to take a little closer look at strategic planning. When you're as busy as the current fire department administration is, just keeping the ship running and making sure you're responding to calls and taking care of the day-to-day operations, you have very, very little time left over to do any sort of strategic planning or continuous quality improvement. So that's basically where we saw our findings, and then we based our recommendations off those findings.
And all of this information is in the study that's on the screen, but we have included some highlights. It looks like you do have screens behind there, so perhaps you can see it. We did pull out some key data because it does really pretty strongly support what the recommendations are in terms of your staffing and the call volume that you have, the hours that you have it, the limited availability of staff who are working full-time in other positions outside of the city and outside of the department. I can wait if you guys are working to fix something. Go either way is fine. Yeah. Okay, I'll continue. So the last slide just talked a bit more about the staffing. A couple of key members who are spending some significant amount of time. If one won the lottery tomorrow and wasn't available, that would be pretty tough to continue the operations as you have it today. The screen here is the comparison by county of net fire EMS spending in Waukesha County. You can see Muskego is a great place for spending per capita at $35. At the lowest number on all of the municipalities within the county, currently contributing about $700,000 per year in operational expenses to support the department, which in 2025, the total operating budget was about $1.5 million. But we're seeing that those years have been really great and effective, but likely really potentially unsustainable moving forward. So what we're looking at now is some recommendations based on all of our findings and the information we've learned to ensure that the next 100 years of emergency services continues the tradition of test corners and also continues that collaboration with your current members and staff through a more phased approach to moving forward with a more full-time municipal department. You want to talk through the recommendations, Paul?
So in the study, you'll see a number of phased-in recommendations, and a lot of this is, flexible. And we spoke to the mayor about it, and the mayor spoke prior to this meeting that this is not set in stone. But we think it's really important to establish some sort of a transition committee as soon as possible. At Q3 or Q4 of 2026 would be highly recommended. Some sort of a transition committee that can talk about all the things that I've just talked about over the last 4 months with current fire department administration and other stakeholders. It became quite apparent to me that without some of the really key people, there was some major concerns about the sustainability of the current staffing system of the Test Corners Fire Department. I know that it's not just a Muskego problem or a Wisconsin problem, but it's a problem nationwide, trying to recruit and retain volunteers, and we're no different here. I think that there's no let up in sight on that, and there's a lot of things that people have tried to recruit new volunteers, but it's kind of a generational difference, and nobody's having much success in relying solely on volunteers anymore. The other phase 2 of the recommendation would be to hire a full-time City of Muskego. We labeled it as a fire chief. It can be labeled administrative officer or whatever the steering committee or transition committee would identify, but we think it's really important to have the person making decisions and learning about the operation of the current situation to be a City of Muskego employee, and kind of be the liaison between you folks here at the Common Council, the mayor, City Hall, and then in the future, the Muskego Fire Department, Muskego/Test Corners Fire Department, Municipal Fire Department. So that full-time chief would start laying the groundwork for the future of a municipal fire department. And we thought that was the most important thing to start with, so that somebody has a vision, can work on the strategic plan with the approval of the Common Council, and start laying it out, 5 and 10-year plans. So after that, and you'll still be operating as like a combination department, similar to what they're doing now, but you would have oversight by that fire chief, and then evolve into adding like shift commanders, because again, it's not like first shift, second shift, third shift. They're working 24-hour shifts, and you really need 3 shifts on a rotation, and you would have then the recommendation on phase 3 to hire 3 full-time captains or battalion chiefs, if you will, that would oversee each individual shift. So that's not 3 people at a time. That would be 1 person per 24-hour shift. Then phase 4, eventually, we're recommending hiring 12 full-time firefighter paramedic positions to support the long-term staffing sustainability and operational readiness. I know there has been some discussion in the past few years about adding more full-time people immediately, but it is our position that it would be in the best interest of the city of Muskego to hire somebody first to at least guide that direction the way the city wants it to and oversee future full-time positions.
And to add to that, the city is also able to add some of the important benefits that employees today as firefighter paramedics desire, and it will make you more competitive. You'll be able to attract full-time employees in that way, maybe retain them, and that the funding piece of that is really important in making sure that this all kind of works and that you get the service that you need as you go into the future, because the service demand is there, and the pieces here at play are really key in being sure you can deliver. Yeah.
One additional comment regarding that. Anytime there's discussion such as this taking place where you're transitioning from volunteer to full-time, you risk the chance of having the volunteers feel disrespected and unappreciated. If this is done right, my experience or our experience has been that it actually promotes more interest and gives the people that are volunteering, I guess, a opportunity to see a future moving into full-time positions. And so I think that it will, you won't see a problem with volunteers, not being interested anymore. I think that you may see the opposite and have more people interested when they see an opportunity for advancement in the future.
Do you want to talk about Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, along with this, we're going to talk about how does this potentially get funded? But know that there are other opportunities out there for grant funding. So one of which is the SAFER grant, which we have had success writing that grant and securing it during our time at the City of West Bend. And that grant is to help sort of build up your team of firefighters full time for a period of time. It's not everlasting funds, but it is incremental over a couple of years. And that this would be a perfect case for that program. It's highly competitive. There's no promises, but it is meant for something like this. And it can fund fully, for up to 3 years, those firefighters. In addition to that, this is a pretty significant change to your operating budget, and we're recommending the exploration of a referendum to begin covering the cost as soon as January 1st, 2027. So this timeline here is what is state statute on our timelines for getting, the certification out, filing the referendum question with your local clerk, county clerk. So if you do want to consider this, and as soon as next year's budget cycle, this is the timeline that would need to be met for those items. So financial impact, we do have a full sheet about sort of what this looks like. We worked with your finance department at the city to understand what would this look like for an assessed home value of $350,000 or $600,000. And we broke it out over 5 years because we feel the phased approach to this recommendation is probably at least a 5-year plan. It's going to take some time to get fully staffed and to transition and to continue the services you have now with the team you have now as well, and working together with your transition committee. So you can see here, if you were to do the November 26 election, we're looking at a $4.4 million request and levy increase that would be, asked upon your residents to vote on. You can go ahead.
Excuse me. Yes. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, that's an additional 251, an additional 225, an additional 201 every year. It's going to go up that much more. So the first year it'll be another $251. The second year it'll be on top of that, $225.
Well, you will have paid the 250 for that given tax year, and then the projected number for the following year would be a bit less as property values go up.
So no, to answer your question.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
To answer your question, Rob, no, it's not additional. It's what that year's impact would be.
it's not cumulative.
Correct.
It's not
That's what he was asking.
250 plus
And
225.
how accurate would that be? Because there's different factors that can be involved. This is just estimates.
It's an estimate, correct.
And then just to be clear, that 4.4 million, as Jess mentioned, is the 5-year plan. It's not, you don't necessarily need the 4.4 million in the first year when you're simply hiring the first employee or the first 4 employees out of the gate, like Paul mentioned with the administrative officer and then the 3 battalion chiefs or whatever the title ends up being. But it's that total amount of the 12 firefighters and the 3 battalion chiefs and the administrative officer for the city. So that all totaled up is the 4.4 million. And that's just how referendums work and timing works, that you project out so you don't have to go to referendum once for the chief and another time for the next 3 employees and then another time for the following 12 employees. You project out for the 5 years. That's what that 4 million reflects. And then financially, you guys keep record of that in-house and segregate those funds. So those funds that are generated, if you had a successful referendum, would be earmarked for the fire service, and it could be spent on other ancillary items that are going to be needed within your fire stations and your equipment and your operations.
Okay, so 7.5, financial impact analysis. Phase 2, 3, 4, that's a 5-year projection of 3.7, 3.8. You got 4.4 up there. Am I thinking, what, am I confused?
Yeah, so the numbers within the study are based on only the staffing request of the chief, the full-timers. And then when we worked with the city on the total projection of what it would cost, because there's going to be other administrative costs, there's going to be what the full, I guess, net amount is the 4.4. So 3.7 just for staffing alone. And then the difference there is all the other things
And
that
that's
I wrapped up
salary
into
plus
that.
benefits?
It's everything.
Cost.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so kind of wrapping up on our presentation, our next steps that we're recommending is, if you look to commit to a November referendum and proceed as, we've recommended here, would be to kind of immediately get started with your clerk and your team on the language and the requirements by the state to submit for the referendum itself for that question and to file that. But then it's to establish your transition committee. So here we've recommended who might be represented on your committee, maybe a handful of you members and the mayor, test corner representatives, of course, board members, fire chief, current fire chief, a number of representatives. So that you'll have, a wide variety of buy-in as you move forward and shape what the department looks like, the timeline for everything, kind of go from there. And then sort of hand in hand, all these things are happening together, really launching a public information campaign to inform your residents of what this is and the need for it, the why, the impact it's going to have on them financially, but also the impact it's going to have on them long-term in terms of service delivery, because that's what's most important in all of this, is the continuance of fire EMS services to them that they can rely on moving into the future. And that's what we believe this is going to do.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Again, we're almost August right now. You're saying January 1st. You're trying to put this all together pretty quickly to inform the people. Realistically, I don't think that's enough time to inform everybody to get aboard here and understand what's going on in a community of this size. This is going awful quick to try to get a referendum in by January 1st.
That's the next agenda item, to talk about funding. So we
I
can
know-
talk,
I know,
I mean, we can get more in detail on that. And
I understand that, but this is their study. I'm
Sure.
going,
I get that, but
their study. And to me, the study is moving awful quick. Most fire departments, what I've seen in the past, when they go from volunteer to full-time, have a little more time involved. I mean, we're just getting this package this week, or within a week, and we gotta regenerate, we gotta understand all this and get it going. I mean, we have a lot of questions, a lot more to go through, rather than trying to get a referendum on January 1st. I'll leave it at that. I won't go anymore.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I may, just a general response that, you know, we understand our role. Our role is to draft the study, present the study, you know, spend time with your team in advance of that. Your role is to vote and make that decision. I will share, as a part of a response to one of your comments you made, that those things would happen in concurrence. So is it an aggressive timeline? It is. And I think that just continues, if you choose to do that, just continues to show your level of proactiveness by moving forward. There is enough time to inform your constituents between now and November. We would recommend you get started on that soonish, but there's absolutely enough time. It doesn't need 6 months of a public information campaign. If you were to go for a referendum in April, you likely wouldn't start aggressively until a few months before. So the timeline is fine for the referendum information piece. Concurrently to that, and one of the recommendations that Paul mentioned was the start of that board that you referred to, the transition committee. That would be going on in concurrence, and they could provide some feedback and involvement, if you will, with the public information campaign. So they happen concurrently. It's not like they need to do their work and then the public information takes place. They would be happening at the same time.
So you're saying that it's, in your opinion, you would rather see the vote go through for a referendum and then work through that. I'd like to see the work before that, before a referendum.
I understand your.
And second of all, looking at this study here, I guess I'm being conservative, but and I do appreciate the volunteer fire department, which I said many times. I'm probably the most supportive out of everybody, at least in my opinion, of what they do and whatever. I mean,
I think there's 6 people that would take exception to that comment, but.
I know, I'm just saying, we got a hard job up here to do this. So I do ask a lot of questions, and sometimes I might seem a little hard-nosed on it. But the other thing is, your study is all about taking this from volunteer to full-time. I see nothing else in here. Am I missing something?
I think you'll see that it's a transition, and adding the 12 full-time people are only 4 per shift. You will be a combination department where it's supplemented by paid on-call volunteers.
Okay, but I see nothing in here that suggests anything different than becoming a full-time fire department. That's where you're taking us. I see no alternatives, nothing, anything creative. I see nothing about merging. I see nothing about private enterprise for EMT. I mean, I think things are missing, in my opinion, on your study.
And I understand your perspective. We did look at privatized EMS. We did look at some collaboration with neighboring fire departments, and based on our expertise, basically, that this would be the first step, and there would be opportunities in the future after you start adding more full-time people to do some sort of collaboration with neighboring departments.
And I appreciate that, but I see nothing in front of me telling me that, and I don't appreciate that. And
Okay, Rob, we're not here to argue.
This is their study. I was talking and you're interrupting me.
Yeah, I chair the meeting.
We talked about this.
I chair the meeting.
We talked about
I
this,
chair
right?
the meeting.
Just like the agenda.
I chair the meeting.
I understand.
I will let
Talk
you.
over me.
Just
ahead.
I will check.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is you can ask questions.
I
but
am
we're not-
asking a question.
No, you're asking questions and you're beating them up.
No, I'm not
Just-
beating them up. I'm
All right, let's continue with your
critiquing
questions
the survey.
without monopolizing the
I'm
time.
critiquing the survey. And the only way you can get questions is if you ask them, and there's questions to be asked because they're not answered in your package here.
Okay.
And somebody has to ask the tough questions, and of course, I'm vocal, I will do that. And again, being big supporter of the volunteer fire department, what can we do to keep it as much as possible that way, even if it involves funding from the city? I mean, we're already doing funding.
I'll get you.
Do we need to go? I mean, the questions I have is, I can get into this more. I guess I'll leave my questions separate, but to me, the report's not a final report, because I had to ask you the questions to get that answer. That should have been in here saying, we looked at merging, we looked at private enterprise, we found this, we decided this because of that and this and that. I don't know that. So am I bashing them because of that? Or is it not in there and you didn't give it to me?
They gave you asked and answered. Alderman Schrader.
What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
You asked, they answered. Alderman Schrader.
Well, because it's not in the report.
I'm a little bit, I don't want to say confused like Rob, but I guess my thought when this study was approved, that we were going to get different scenarios, not just pushing us towards one thing. Like, here's what, if you do this, this, or this, is what I kind of thought was going to happen. To piggyback on what Rob's saying, we were going to see the comparison. And then as I dig in here and look at like stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? You said you talked to some firefighters and some people neighboring, but isn't the community the stakeholders? Aren't the people that live here the stakeholders? Were any of them interviewed? I'm just curious if we could get a list of who all the actual stakeholders were. And then when I'm looking at the breakdown of the comparison of cities, there's a graph on page, where is that graph? And it showed Muskego as like the lowest per capita. But there's nothing in that graph about, the demographics of those communities, the age, the population, the type of calls, the senior facilities. There's nothing digging down into that. It's just showing that we're the lowest per capita, but there's no real deep information at all in this report. I kind of feel like Rob, I feel like this is just steering us towards one thing and not giving us other suggestions or options with neighboring communities, with a slower transition, jump right into this in a month or a month and a half, getting this ready to have on a referendum. I don't see anything in here about the dissolution agreement and how the things would work with all the buildings. We own 2, the fire department owns 2. There's a lot of equipment, and I mean, I see no detail in this report on anything. It's very fluffy.
Alderman Dilge.
Yeah, this will kind of piggyback on what they said, but not to a different degree. Like, from what I see in the report, it does hinge on funding through a referendum, and very possible, whether you like it or not. Like, not everybody uses EMS service over the course of their lifetime. They might not use EMS or fire services. So in their minds, they might say, we're already paying enough. So there's a possibility the referendum doesn't pass, and then what? I think that's maybe what they're saying. There's no other options. There's no plan B. That, like, what if we don't secure referendum funding? We still have all the same problems you illustrated in your report and no direction on where to go from there.
So I can address part of that, I'm not answering in the report, but if whatever we do, I don't care what we do, on here, it's going to require a referendum. There is no extra money anywhere for this. And if we go to the community and they vote it down, they're voting down. When we call 911, will anyone come? So that's the community's call on that. That's fine. But that's the community's, that literally is a community. There is no plan B on that. So I just want to be clear on that, no matter what other options that would be presented, and not saying we can't get more options. I'm just saying it's all dependent on a referendum. I mean, we're dangerously close to having to go to referendum just to maintain the services we have right now. Alderman Rice.
Thank you guys for your hard work in this study. I super appreciate it. I actually took the time to read this study that was in our packet when this came out. I spent all weekend reading it, going, page by page, couple a day, whatever, really diving in. I have a couple firefighter friends. I have a brother who's a firefighter. If I had a question, I spoke to them. I asked them about this because I do take this serious. I didn't wait till today to look at this for the first time. I do understand your graph on page 10, where you're talking about net fire EMS spending in Waukesha County. You're just talking about how much each city spends on their fire services. It doesn't really matter how many old folks' homes they have or the demographics. They're just pointing out how much each city in the county spends per fire. And also, I did have a quick question on where you spoke to a lot of people, and it says that you spoke to some elected officials. I'm just wondering, did you speak to any alder people that were up here? Because there are a few people up here. I wouldn't let them speak to Jesus Christ on my behalf.
Go ahead.
My focus on the study was just fire and EMS related. And then I'm pretty certain it was the mayor.
Yeah, I can address that. And it felt like that was covered a bit when we presented the proposal, and the direction was to be as objective as possible. So we did speak with the mayor, meant a lot throughout the process, and updates, things like that, but not necessarily for opinions. So this is meant to be about data, about calls, about personnel, about staffing, about understanding what's going on, not necessarily for opinions on where it should or shouldn't go. That's sort of the next step for you. And we wanted to try to keep that to a minimum in terms of having preset ideas on where the department should land. We want it to be as objective as possible, and we work to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is a nice study.
Alderman
you.
Hamel.
Hi, thanks for the study. I do have a couple of questions. One is just a point of clarification in regards to the personnel, the annual costs on that. I noticed that the per person payout increase once you went from 3 battalion chiefs to 5 part-time to 12 full-time. Is that because there's just more benefits involved with it? That's including
Salaries,
everything.
benefits. Yep.
And then to work off of that, 12 full-time firefighters really is not a full-time fire department, correct? It is more or less a hybrid mix between full-time and paid on call, maybe?
Correct. Combination is a current term when you supplement the full-time staff with paid on call or volunteers. The 12 full-time firefighters would allow you to have an engine company at least two stations. So you would have 5 people on duty for each shift. You'd have the captain and then 4 additional firefighter medics.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay. And also, will investing in a move to a municipal fire department provide a pathway for increasing the level of care to the paramedic level? So, does the current state license of Test Corner Fire Ambulance Service, is that intermediate or advanced? Does it affect that, or?
So currently, the interventions available to the paramedic level licensure for a provider, like Test Corners, there's not a huge difference between I call it the intermediate 99 or advanced intermediate that they currently have, but there are interventions available at the paramedic level that they currently cannot do or are not licensed to do, that I think it would be natural progression to move towards that paramedic license in the future.
Okay, thanks. And the last one I have, and I know Alderman Schrader brought up the dissolution agreement. I don't even know if, what's that? We've seen it. Okay, yeah. So how does that affect everything? What happens to all the capital assets already owned by Test Corners?
The simple answer is you would follow the dissolution agreement. The more complicated and real answer, as politics and 100 years of history and standing up a municipal department while respecting the great history and high level of service that you've experienced over the last 100 years. That's where that transition committee comes in. So that would be a task of the transition committee to really move through that document, that dissolution document in detail and probably, quite frankly, paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence, to put that into action.
I'll touch on that one. So I did provide the council probably a year and a half ago, the actual a copy of the actual dissolution agreement and a memo outlining it. But as Jay had said, that event, if we get to that point, it's a contract that will follow. There's the major part in there is the funding of the scholarship on there, and that's fully funded already. So, and it has been for years.
Of your memo for the dissolution from last June?
Is that from June 25th, 2025?
Correct.
Muskego Common Council, Mayor. Yeah, I just pulled it up.
So where do you guys want to go? Further questions on this? It seems like some of you still have some questions from that you think the report's missing. What other further information would you like for follow-up? Alderman Schrader.
If we could have information on your scenarios with combining with another municipality, that potential scenario, where that outline is or where that paperwork is on that.
If I could tag on to that, as well as the private, going to like a private EMT, like a Bell ambulance, I don't know the names or who
So
or what.
one of the things that you have to realize, and I'm all for any efficiencies that we can find. I mean, Alderman Wolf doesn't have the monopoly on wanting to save money and do what's best for the community. All of us have those same thoughts up here. For any department to want to merge with us, for it to be a merger, we have to have a department to merge with. So that what we're talking about doing might get us to that some point someday. We're not talking about going, the first phase is to add 12 firefighters. I mean, if we not first phase, the first 4 phases for fire, that is not a full-time department. That's the point where we get there, then we can start talking to other communities. What you're talking about beyond that would be to approach Franklin or approach New Berlin and say, take us over completely, where they would just extend their borders to us. So we aren't in a position right now to merge with anyone. And that's what this study gets us to.
Sure,
So
and it's not uncommon, that we're a lot of communities are combining now.
They're combining. We have nothing to combine with. We have a volunteer fire department, but we as a municipality have nothing to merge
Now,
with.
do we do other areas besides Muskego? I mean, we do.
But all fire departments work cooperatively on a fire. Like today, there was a structure fire on Crowbar Road. I went to the scene. I saw Vernon, New Berlin. Can't remember who else showed up, but there was a number of different departments.
Are some of those volunteers still?
Oh, no, ours is volunteer.
Okay, so Vernon's
Vernon's
Big Bend
paid.
and
I think they're a combination department of paid on call.
Wynn Lake and they're,
Wynn Lake was there as well. Yes, correct.
I think,
Yes.
I don't know.
And Wynn Lake's partially paid.
What's
So
that?
Wynn Lake, Norway is a paid department also. We don't have any municipally paid firefighting right now.
Okay.
Alderman Schrader.
I was going to just say, I think I see a lot of the firefighters here, and we have amazing volunteer firefighters.
Absolutely.
And our community is very blessed. I just kind of got the vibe, and again, I asked what stakeholders you talked to, and apparently the only person on this council that you talked to was the mayor, so there's no one else. It was just, you got the mayor's opinion, the mayor's thoughts. Let me finish.
I will.
And with that said, also, like I said, I feel like some people from the community should have been involved in this. We're the ones, the community is we answer to the community, and the community is the one that makes the calls, and they use the volunteer services. And I also kind of just felt like, just my opinion, but I just felt like it was a little bit of a threat that if we don't pass a referendum, we're not going to have a 911 service. And I really don't feel like our firefighters are going to go there. Most of them live in our community, and we all work together as a community. And I feel like pitting us against each other or making almost threats like that is very unsavory at this point. We all want to work together. We all want a great resolution for our community, and I just feel very threatened right now about this. Just going to leave it at that.
So I just want to clarify a few missed points that were just taken. One, when I was interviewed, and they can back me up on this, I was not interviewed for my opinion, and I was very clear not to give my opinion. The questions that were given to me were as the chief administrator for the city of factual information. You know, dissolution. They talk about dissolution agreement. Can I get a copy of that? You know, what works? How does this work? How does that work? That was the input I gave. It wasn't, I feel that we should be doing this. That didn't happen, and I was very clear to make sure that I was remaining, that this is their report, not my report. Number two, it was not a threat. I am regarding if the community does pass it, it's a reality that we have no funding. We have no funding available to expand what we have for fire service. Right now, we offer service that works for our community. That may not be the case in a year or two, as things could happen. People that are key players right now in the department are quite frankly asking to have us come up with a better solution, because some of them are done doing what they've been doing for a long time or neared being done, and they don't have, there's no next guy up anymore. So that's not a threat. We need to, as a community, start funding our fire and EMS services better than we do. And the only way that happens is through a referendum, because with levy caps, there is no extra money. Zero. Like I said, we are perilously close to having to go to referendum just to offer the services we have right now. Alderman Price.
I just want to say that Jess pointed out that their study, they were looking for factual things, not opinions. And they weren't saying at any point that the community, that their opinion doesn't matter. That would be part of the community
Information and education.
Thank you. Information sessions that we would have, would be listening to their opinion. This is not, like she said, it's not based on opinion, it's based on facts and statistics and data. We asked them to get us this. In fact, Mr. Van Zeeland, who drove down from Crivets that one day, said he would even be interested in seeing what someone else had to say, because the fire department is expressing that they would like to know what they could do to get some help, how we can better look towards the future, things like that. It's not based on anyone's opinion. No one is threatening anyone. Just more show. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Anyone else? So what I'm seeing.
I got one quick question.
Sure.
You guys brought up grant money, and I think you said 3 years is good for. You gave us a 4.4 million. Out of that, 3.7 million is salaries and benefits. We'll just go with the 4.4. I don't know what the grant money is going to cover. What is the grant money going to? Is that included with that figures, or can we reduce those figures because of the grant money?
Yeah, you can do anything that you want when you go to referendum. You can ask for anything from your constituents.
No, you said you guys would apply for the grant money and everything. I'm not even talking about, I'm just talking just pure figures.
Yes, we can apply for a grant, but that's, I would caution us to lower the amount of the request.
No, I'm not looking to lower that. I'm just looking at what would that do to our numbers?
I got you.
Okay.
I'm going to get there if you let me. So the number that's included in the study is the all-in cash number that the municipality would have to raise in taxes.
That was the 4.4, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
To fund it. If you were fortunate enough to receive a grant through the SAFER grant or any other program that might be out there, those dollars would come to you, and they would be in addition to what you're taxing for. Let's play the scenario out that you move forward with the referendum at the 4.4 level, You started taxing individuals at that higher amount, and your finance department's keeping that in a separate fund. And then a year from now or 2 years from now, when you're applying for the SAFER grant for the 12 firefighters, and you're fortunate, it's just mentioned really competitive, but you're fortunate enough to secure those funds. Let's say it's $1.5 million. You would receive that $1.5 million, and the program undergoes changes all the time. So maybe it's an 80-20 now, and you're funding 20% of it on your own. You'd receive those grants over and above the new tax money that you've passed by way of referendum.
So that's what I'm trying to get a feel. Is that a realistic number, 1.5 million, or are you just pulling the number out?
Well,
It's
an informed number. Yeah,
okay.
I would say that it's a roughish
And that
number.
would be, if you get the grant, you're applying for a 3-year grant, or you have to reapply every year?
It's a 3-year grant.
It's a 3-year grant, and it staggers its way down in some instances.
So I'm just trying to put my notes together. So.
You just apply once, yes. You just, yeah.
I'm sorry,
If
apply
you,
once.
if you
Okay.
get it, you get it. You get the 3 years
Got
worth
it.
of funding.
And the question I have is, we're doing this with the road program. I mean, it seems like eventually we're gonna have to do something with this fire department, if it's, 3 years or 5 years, or as you guys want next month. But, we're doing the road program every other year, and we're funding that and investing it to bring down costs. Is it something, I don't see that in a report, or is something you guys, is that something we can do with the fire department as well to implement?
I guess I'm still missing the question.
The road program is, we're borrowing, what, 5 million, but we're every,
$5 million every
but we're
2
taking
years.
half of that, investing it and using half of it, right?
Yes.
So what would stop us from doing something on that routine?
We probably would. So, okay, and if I understand your question correctly, so we go to, let's just say we do the referendum in November, it passes. So we'll just, for simplicity's sake, say it's a $5 million referendum. It passes. We don't need the $5 million next year. We don't, that number we're asking for this year is what we need 5 years out, because you can't go to the electric every year and ask for more and more and more money. Year 2 or 3, they're going to say no, enough, and you don't have what you need. So you get the full amount. We don't need the full amount, so we either invest it, and then those investments are earmarked for just fire.
I got it, kind of like what we're doing with the road program. I got it.
Right. The one thing that you got to be cognizant of, though, is we are going from we're working towards a municipal department, so we have extra capital costs that we would need to have initially, like we need to modify the departments for sleeping quarters and upgrades to the departments for things that we don't have there. So that extra money that we would have initially that we're not using for salaries and everything else, we would use for capital items to get us there, if that makes sense.
Okay, so the 4.4 million, that was for first year or for 5 years? It was for 5.
That's
Yes.
year one, but our
And
plan
year
is to
5.
have that
I'm just
continually.
trying to put this all
So in
together.
5 years, when we implement our full plan, we have the funding for it.
So are we gonna need, like, Robert Baird, whoever we used, to come in and explain this in dollar amounts to us on a sliding scale for the next 5
Well,
years?
the operating impact dollar amount, Jenny and I can go over that. That's not borrowing or anything. That's just increasing the amount that we're taxing through operating every year, just like we do now.
Yeah, but if we're, okay.
So we can compare to where, here's what your taxes would be this year with the budget. Here's what it would be if we passed the referendum, and you would see the difference.
So just real quick, you guys showed the chart up there. I don't know if you had that up there. That's the one, yep. So, it doesn't break down how much money you want per year for that first 5 years.
No, it's the full amount.
That's the full amount
You asked for the full amount.
for
so
5
that-
years.
For 5 years, right. But
But we have-
because of the amount that we're asking for $5 million. So this year, $5 million will have, like in 2027, on a $600,000 home, we'll have roughly a $400 and some impact. But as the community tax base grows, the amount that $5 million contribution from everyone or taxing from everyone will go down, because there's more people to tax on that amount. So that dollar amount goes down every year, if you notice that.
I never trust the government.
Well, good. That's,
Like the toll road.
none of us do.
It's like
That's why we're here, because we didn't trust whoever was here before us. So,
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out, okay.
so I think it sounds like it might be helpful if we can at least get you guys to maybe do a supplement to this of just kind of explaining some of the processes you looked at, okay, mergers and, the options that went through internally that you didn't put into the report. I think it might benefit at least a couple of the aldermen that they see that. Is there something else you would like to see added into this?
I don't know. I haven't digested this 100%. I've been looking at it for more than one day, or just now. I've been reading it for a while, but you can read this and reread it and reread it again.
Well, we're going to be talking about this extensively for the foreseeable future. So I strongly encourage that all of you get intimate with this document and know it like the back of your hand. So one of the reasons that we have this aggressive time frame on this is we have a choice. We either can do this in November and implement it in January, or we can do it in April, and we're waiting a full year again. There is no, like, if we do it in April, we can't implement anything until the following January again. So that's why, ideally, yes, it'd be nice to, if we would have started this process earlier, but we didn't. And even if we did, I still think we'd be looking at it. No one wants to make a decision like this.
That's a tough decision.
Because no one wants to make the decision on this. I'll just put it that way. We have to make a decision on this one way or another. And I don't think, if you look at the time frame while being aggressive, it's really not that crazy, because there's nothing going to change. Tonight we're going to still listen to, I'm sure if some of these people want to give their input on this, and I'm going to listen to them tonight, and they're going to talk, and it's just the beginning of the conversation. But us as a council, my thought would be, we're going to talk about this more later tonight as far as, funding and all that, but then we're going to talk about it the next meeting again, and we're going to talk about it the next meeting again, and we're going to make a decision if we're going to go to referendum between now and, that second meeting in August at the latest. We're going to make a decision if we're going to do it or not now. So we're going to have a conversation continually now for the foreseeable month and a half.
So the dissolution agreement, in my opinion, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but shouldn't that be resolved before we go to referendum? So we know why we're going to referendum?
It doesn't really matter. There's nothing in there. I mean, the biggest thing in the dissolution agreement is the nuts and bolts of the dissolution agreement are anything that they purchase after 1988 is ours. Anything before that is there, and if we want it, we may not even want some of it. We pay fair market value, and on top of that, we have to fund a scholarship fund, which has already been funded.
So is there more money, just so I understand this, is there more money involved rather than the 4.4 million because of the dissolution agreement?
Not really.
Or are we taking, in theory, are we taking them over, or are they giving it up?
That remains to be
That's
seen.
the
And
dissolution agreement,
that
right?
is the key to the committee, to make sure these are valuable
Wait a minute,
partners.
the committee being
I don't
us,
want,
the
we're not,
committee, or-
no, the committee's going to be, representation from the fire departments, the police chief, probably an alderman, probably myself, probably some outside, maybe, a fire chief from a.
And that gets brought back to the council then?
Yeah, right. But we need a working group to kind of work how we're going to phase this out. That can all be done while we're doing the financing
That's what I
part.
said, yeah.
SJ is
The last
talking.
question I got is, and maybe I didn't see it, but how many stations are needed? I mean, you're going with 12 full-time people. You're gonna have 3 at each station, one or 2 on each station at once, or 1 at each? I mean, I don't know the theory behind this.
I don't think we really define that, but the study shows that having the additional 12 plus the battalion chiefs or captains would allow you to have 5 people per station.
24 hours?
24/7. So if you do the math on that, it's 2 stations. Now, we did not look at station studies as which stations. That is a whole separate study that should get looked at with stakeholders and, quite frankly, the transitional committee. But of the 4 stations, you would be staffing 2 of them full-time in the future.
Okay, so just so I get your math right, there's going to be 2 full-time people per station? So that's 24 hours, so that's 6 on 2 stations. So how do you come up with 5 people?
Well, so you have the fire chief, we're not going to count that person
Well, he won't be
staffing
there 24
24/7.
hours, yeah.
But everybody else would be. But the 12 full-time firefighters, you divide that by 3 shifts. So you have 4. So of the 12, you would have 4 people per shift because you have a 24-hour work schedule,
okay, gotcha.
24 on.
That's
Then
where
you
I'm
have,
going wrong.
yeah, okay, so you have the 4 people plus the captain, that would be 5 people
Okay,
per
got it.
station. What 5 people allows you to have is 2 two-person ambulances with full-time staff and a supervisor.
So these will be combination firefighter, EMT people.
That would be the recommendation, yes.
So, and I guess I've got to repeat myself from earlier also that that's their recommendation. It doesn't mean we're going to necessarily go chief, captains, workers or the firefighters. It may be, fire administrator / chief, 12 firefighters or 14 firefighters, and, they have a lead or something. That's what the committee would be good for, is coming up with that structure. While taking their recommendations.
I'm just
into
critiquing,
consideration.
like I said, I'm not bashing, I'm just critiquing your, and
We're
and
not-
I need to be informed because
So that's why we're doing it.
I definitely want, I open my mouth and ask questions, so.
Alderman Schrader.
So again, I'm sorry, I'm going back to this, because originally, for years, we've been talking about this on and off, and originally, we were having some conversations about potentially merging. And now I'm being told we can't merge unless the city takes it over, which that was never brought up before, and I just want to know is that
Mayor, if I may, or
is that fully true, that you can't have a hybrid volunteer, whatever, you have to have a fully city-funded fire department to merge with another municipality?
So I think the question and maybe the confusion is merging with whom? Your neighbors are essentially full-time departments, full-time 24/7 departments. As we communicated with them, the neighboring chiefs, you would be talking about the same dissolution discussion that you're having now, dissolving your department and contracting out to a neighbor. The mayor was accurate. You don't have, and this is zero disrespect to Tess Corners in your current operation, but you don't have a municipal department to merge with. So what your question really is asking is, could we be contracting with another municipality and dissolve Tess Corners and have that neighboring municipality stand up a New Berlin Station 8 in your current Tess Corner station? Could you do that? Yes. We're not recommending that. We've had those conversations, and we'll add that, Mr. Mayor, to the study, the fact that we had those conversations and that we're not recommending that. But that is absolutely not a recommendation to do that. We think, and Paul can speak to the fire service more than I can, but if you think people are going to be concerned about losing Tess Corners and having it turn into a Muskego department, I think they'll be way more concerned about losing Tess Corners, what that means. And I'm using that term intentionally. You're not losing Tess Corners. You're having a combination department for a long time before you would move into a full-time Muskego department, but versus having New Berlin come and occupy your firehouse.
And just if I understood that question correctly, so Jay addressed the potential to merge with another career department neighboring, but the other option would be merge with another volunteer department neighboring, and you don't gain much because they have the same staffing, sustainability, reliability issues that you have. And so we'll address that in our response per the mayor's request.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think there were some things we talked about a year or two ago about if you potentially merge with another municipality, there's grants involved with something like that as well. I mean, I thought we were going to have all kinds of different options to look at about these things.
I can tell you about that a little bit. We're very familiar with the innovation grant. We're very involved with that program.
Yes, that's it.
And you're not eligible right now because you don't have a municipal department. So there's nothing, so that program is based on transferring or consolidating services that you currently provide somewhere else or creating a new district. And since you don't provide those services today, you do pay for them. You don't provide them. Until you do, you're not eligible for the innovation grant. So in the future, like we said, in the future, as you get going, you have your department, then those conversations open up for a lot of different types of funding and a lot of different types of collaboration. Other full-time departments or combination departments may be more open to collaborating. Maybe you do have a larger consortium of, a larger district in the future where you would, both municipalities would be able to obtain those funds. But right now, that's not an opportunity. So we didn't include that in the study because right now, that's not an opportunity for you.
So that innovation is not an opportunity, but
Today, it's not.
okay.
And again, just to be super clear, because you don't have a service to transfer out, you don't have a municipal service that you're currently providing. That's the premise of the innovation grant.
Oh, we didn't know that, no.
So that's what Rick was talking about. You have to first become and then you can do that.
On a number of things, yes. Correct.
Okay.
Alderman Delegate?
One thing, go back to just a little clarification, Mayor. When you talked about the dissolution agreement and ownership of assets before and after 1988, I think you mentioned. When I'm looking at this memo from June of last year that you sent where it's asset ownership and disposition, it says the company owns all fire-related property and equipment, including land and buildings acquired with city funding. So I guess my question or something I would like to get out into the public sphere here is if it's kind of a big deal if we go through with this transition and all of these, say, assets that the city has paid for over time are no longer ours and we would have to repurchase them. That's a big deal.
So the dissolution agreement states that anything purchased with city money after a certain date, while the Test Corners retains ownership of them, and that's mainly for insurance reasons, through the dissolution agreement, the contract we have with them, they get turned over to us at no cost because we've already paid for them. Now, the stuff that was done before the dissolution agreement that we would have interest in, we would pay fair market value or whatever we agree to with Test Corners if the dissolution agreement is invoked.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because the memo I was reading didn't have that distinction.
It's a memo.
I know.
Not the details. Alderman Schrader.
Does that include the buildings?
It includes, I believe it includes everything.
Well, we own 2 of the buildings, don't we?
We own 2 and they own 2. And so I'm just curious, just so we have all
I think we're
the
getting too wrapped
information.
up in the dissolution agreement because it really has almost no impact on this.
The only last question I have, if
really
nobody else has
doesn't.
a question, is, again, I'm trying to figure out, which maybe I missed it in here. I know you're trying to keep 4 stations going, but what is a community of our size and area? I think we're with 36, whatever miles you said that we cover. Was that?
He said 2
Well,
stations.
that's what we would fully man, but we would still keep 2 other stations open, right? Because of the volunteers or?
Yes, as long as you owned it and didn't have a huge cost of maintenance or renovation associated with maintaining it. If it's still functional, that is something that this transitional committee needs to look at. What
Okay, so
stations
they'll recommend
make
how
the most-
many stations we would need or possibly?
The recommendations were to staff 2 stations with a crew to get an ambulance and a fire engine out.
Okay.
We did not look at overall station locations. That would be an independent study. My only last comment would be that based on all my interviews with everybody involved, I'm very optimistic that once you get this transitional committee together and you start talking about what's best for the community, what's best for your citizens, I think that the dissolution agreement will not be enacted. I think that it'll be voluntary, mutual, both parties will agree that that's what's best. At every single turn of this study, we had nothing but, we heard nothing but good things about Test Corners Fire Department, but it was very clear that something needs to change to be able to sustain it and maintain reliability in the future. So I personally think that you're spending a lot of time on the dissolution agreement now, but I think that both parties will agree that it's not needed.
Thanks, Paul. And Mr. Mayor and Council, we'll conclude we'll stick around and listen to, if that's cool that we do that, and listen to the comments that you have coming before you. I totally agree with Paul. Like every conversation we've had, the excitement about the future here is so bright. Like this should be a really exciting time. So I won't apologize that something feels adversarial or negative. It's not in our opinion at all. And sir, we can take any kind of question and zero worries about, beating us up or whatever. We can handle it. So just know that. I gave you my business card. If something comes up between now and then, or something you hear from the fire team or anybody else that you want to just bounce off us or add as a comment or a question, feel free to reach out. You have my cell phone and email. You have access to all three of us. We're partners with you in this. We're excited about the trajectory of Muskego as a whole and about the opportunity. And again, just applaud you for taking this step in advance before something is super critical and you're in an EOC. And do we wish for that? No, not at all. That's why we're here today and having this conversation up front. And thanks for your time. We'll stick around and be available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So far, we're going to have them give us a supplement to the planning and kind of go over their thought process and the different evaluations. I guess at this point, I wouldn't mind opening it up if anyone from the audience has a specific question, or if they want to make a comment. I would welcome that. Are you guys okay with that?
I'm always in favor of that.
All right. So is there anyone that would, I know Andy Mack had asked to speak, and the microphone's yours. I think it's on. Just tap it once on top. Here. Okay, here we go, right? Okay.
I'm on the fire department, been involved in the fire department for many, many years, but I just want to make it clear, I am not here representing the fire department. I am here representing myself and my knowledge. Alderman Wolf, you hit the nail on the head. It's too fast. This ain't going to happen in 3-4 months. There's a lot of things in here that are not explained fully that we need to. Education is a key, and I don't think there's enough education going on here. As far as the, I gotta get my page here. Your run charts and everything from the west end of the county. There's not a standalone fire department on the west end of Waukesha County, west of Pewaukee, and actually Pewaukee picked up Lisbon. But everybody there is combined. They came in, they said, well, we're gonna do this for X amount of dollars. Like these guys are telling us, 3.2 million or whatever. Within 6 months, they're asking for $6 million more, and the next year they're asking for another $6 million more because they're not handling it. 5 guys at a station is not enough. Thank you for being at the fire call today, Mayor, but when you seen Vernon come in, their fire staff is gone. There's 2 people left at their station for their ambulance. Their community is done. You can't do that. If you're gonna do this, you need to do it right. You need to staff it right immediately. Not build in steps. It doesn't work that way. You got to do it right. 12 people is not enough. I say 32. And at 3.2 million, I'll say they're $3 million late on their budget costs. I've never seen a fire budget and a lot of these chiefs that are here tonight are gonna tell you the same thing. Nobody in this county or state has ever lowered their budgets. Costs of living or prices of everything. Kansasville just took order of a new fire truck. They just got it in. They've been jagging around since right after COVID. So what do we got? 6 years. They paid $877 for that truck. If they would bought that truck today, it would be 1.2 million. So whose budgets are going to go down? Nobody's budget's going to go down. They're going to continuously go up. More staffing, more staffing, more staffing. And that's from what I've seen happen in the western side of the city. Kettle Moraine, they said they could do it with North Prairie, and now they're going to basically split again because the money's not there for it. We've come into the city for years and argued and beat each other's heads up over budget items. There's enough qualified people on our department, we could put this together. Does the city want to hear that plan? No, they're going to tell us we're asking for way too much money and everything. But we have qualified people to be deputy chiefs and all of that stuff here right now. We have guys that would want to be hired full-time. We got all of that. I think you should ask the department if they could do that. But like I said, to put this through in 1 year, it's not going to work. And I just don't think that this city, I'm not saying this is not needed, but this city should do it the right way and not half-cocked. Because, like I said, everybody in this county is hurting to hire firemen. Our police department's hurting to hire policemen. Nobody wants to do this job anymore. And to become a paramedic level, you know how long a school that is? It's a long time. Not everybody wants to be a paramedic. They want to be an EMTI or something like that, yeah. My understanding was that in this city, with the hospitals being so close, we didn't need a paramedic program. And I know other departments have it for the better service. Is it going to better your service? Yes, but how many drugs? I think it was 4 drugs at the time that our guys can't give. So, like I said, I think this needs to really be thought about, and everybody needs to get good and educated on this, and it ain't going to happen in these next few months. Because there is a lot of unanswered questions here, I feel. Thank you for your time. And one more thing. We did do a study in, 2006, 2007, when Muskego Volunteer Fire Company and Tufts Corners, we combined, merged. I was chief at that time, Muskego. Eileen Madden is the only alderman that I recognize through the years. I know she hasn't been on the aldermanic seat for every year, but them people made a big decision there, and there's nobody here. And after that was done and we combined, nobody ever followed up on that study. And in that study, it said the city needs to be prepared to the next level. And it's never been acted upon. So no, I don't think any of you people ever seen that study where it was all in there. We paid for that once before. And if we would have followed that plan, we wouldn't have had to pay $60-some thousand for another study. What one study told us already. So that's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So one thing I should point out, and I should have pointed out earlier, so Test Corners does, and I've said this before, so this isn't the part. Test Corners does do an excellent job, but you know, when we're concentrating on, you know, what Chief Marty does and his firefighters and everything. The other half of this that we haven't talked about tonight that is a critical part is the business operations of Test Corners. And those are some very key positions that keep the lights on, keeps the billing, everything else. And those individuals are some of them that are very concerned about, you know, who's here to take this over for me? I mean, Dave Van Zeeland lives in Crivets. He lives in Crivets, and he's doing this down here. He wants to retire fully. I mean, and do his 4th of July celebrations, and hang out on his boat and golf. And I mean, I had Teams call with him the other day from the golf course. Well, he doesn't want to have to take Teams calls on the golf course anymore. So, it's more than just how many guys show up when a call goes out. It's that part of it too. So that is a important part of why we need to pull some of this, pull this in house. And yes, as former Chief Mack said that, we're not going to do this in a year, but our plan isn't to do it in a year. Our plan is to start for January 1, start working on the next 5 years. Because even if 5 years from now, the plan is still not to have a fully staffed department because we can't afford it. I mean, you saw the numbers on just doing 12. Well, 32 all at once? You want to see pitchforks and flames coming up. Or just people laughing at the ask. We just can't do it. We have to do that. We have to grow it like every other community that has transitioned into it. And maybe in 5 years from now, when we do this, if we do something like this in 5 years from now and have our 12 and whatever we come up with, at that point, instead of maybe going to a full, doing the other 30 positions that we would need or 20 positions, whatever. That's when we can look at, okay, let's do something jointly with another department, or maybe we can get the county to do something as a thing, or we do some innovation grants, but we have to have something to be able to go to that next step. What we're trying to do here is lay the foundation to make it, to continue the legacy that Test Corners has done for the last 100 years and continue it in some shape or form. So when, no one plans on having a heart attack and hardly anyone uses EMS, but you sure want it to show up if you do need it. So, we have a response. We not only have a moral responsibility for this, we actually have a legal one. Part of being a incorporated city is you have to provide certain services, and fire and EMS is one of those. And, we're doing it now. We're not waiting till we can't do it, but we're trying to plan so when, so we make that transition at the right time. And, Andy's right. We probably should have started looking at this earlier, but this is, no one likes spending taxpayer money up here. And, but, we have to, this is something we need to, we have to start working on because it's been kicked down the road way too long, so I think that conversation needs to happen. So does anyone else want to give any input or have questions, or, is there something that if you saw the report that you have a question on? We have our consultants here right now. We're able to ask it. If there's, you want to call me names, now's your opportunity. So this is just the beginning of the conversation. It's going to be a community-wide conversation. I'll tell you, the fortune and misfortune of going through an election cycle this past year. And, one thing that people aren't afraid to tell you what they're looking for, and I'll tell you that one of the top things that came up is, if not a full-time fire department, but to have full-time EMS. And, because, everyone's got a story of, not necessarily they were here, they could have been in another community. I don't care what the response time is, it's never quick enough, because when you hit send on your phone, you want somebody to teleport over and be there. So they could be there in a minute, and still, if you're the one going through that service, they want it there quicker. Our response times are okay right now, but if we were to have a major incident where we have something countywide, say a tornado goes through and hitting New Berlin and us, there's no one to ask for mutual aid because they're helping their own communities at that time too. So if no one else has anything on this, we're going to transition into funding conversations, and we could talk more about the referendum and what your thoughts are and what directions you want to go. But does anyone else have anything? All right, thank you. This is not the end of the conversation. Like I said, feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. My phone number is, widely known. It's on the website. Call me. I answer my own phone. It gets forwarded to my cell phone. I probably shouldn't tell you people that. But I usually can't get away from any calls. So feel free to reach out, email, text, smoke signals, whatever. But we do want your input, because this is going to be a community effort to move forward. All right. Moving on with the agenda, but staying close to home on this. Discussion and possible direction for staffing regarding funding options for public safety. So what isn't in here, what we didn't talk about, we only talked about fire and EMS tonight. To really, if we're going to look long-term on this, and we started talking about this last fall when we started talking about public works garage and storage and doing a facilities plan on that. We would need to expand a couple positions in public works if we do a fire department, because we're going to be doing the maintenance in-house, so we need to staff that. We have already moved forward with the at the council's direction feasibility or facilities study on what we have for public works, both storage and actual garage facilities. So that will be coming forward. But so there would be 2 more public works positions that we would need for this, for maintenance on equipment that they are currently outsourcing right now. So that's all part of operating a department. Plus, there's a lot of volunteer hours right now, that volunteers that take care of a lot of maintenance that don't show up in balance sheets and everything else, that we would need to figure out how we're going to do that going forward. So that's why those 2 positions would be important. But the other thing that I think is very important to talk to, and Captain Fonz is here and might be able to answer some of the questions, but if we're going to be talking public safety, I think this is the same time we talk about what we're going to do with our police department. We are understaffed in there, and we need to add more positions than we can afford right now through our current budget. So I think those are all things that we need to have a further discussion on and wrap that all into our asks to the community and explain our need on it. Our police, we are a safe community, but more and more crime is coming in from Milwaukee County, and the community is growing. And our police force numbers for per capita and per square mile and every other per that you can come up with is way below our standards, and we make do with it. On top of it, it was mentioned, police and fire both have staffing issues, and that's not just a Muskego, Waukesha County, Wisconsin thing, that's a nationwide thing. So we constantly have vacancies. And with those vacancies is to make up for that, we end up having more overtime, and more overtime burns out your existing force, which then exasperates the issue of, hey, I want to move on to a different department, and then you just have more vacancies. So that's part of why we need to have more staffing in our police department also, to kind of spread that out. So comments, questions, night remarks? Alderman Schrader.
Are you talking about combining?
Referendum, not to do a public, my recommendation is to do a public safety referendum and combine it all, because we can't go to the community this year and ask for fire and come back next year and ask for police and come back the following year and ask for something. We need to explain what we need, why we need it, and let them decide if they think it's a worthy cause. New Berlin's doing that right now. They're going through that. In fact, I think they had their first public informational meeting last Monday. They're planning on going in November on theirs. Not much more of a spread out time frame than we're doing. It's what's happening across the state, quite honestly. Local government has a responsibility at the bare minimum for public safety. You can argue that we don't need a lot of other stuff that we do, but public safety is really our bare minimums. Statutorily, they require us to do other things like run elections and other things that we have to do, planning and all that. But people expect to have their local government protect them and offer services in their worst day. So, Alderman Hamel.
So how many additional police would we need, and what would the additional cost be to the referendum?
Nick, are you prepared to answer any of this, or?
I can wing it.
And the only reason the chief's not here is he is in Washington, D.C. this week for a FBI Academy thing that he's doing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so otherwise he would be here tonight.
So the chief put in the kind of was like a 5-year plan. What does it look like? The city continues to grow, and ad nauseum, he has said time and time again, you have to explore internal first before you can go to the public and ask. So over the last 5 years, he's done a lot of different things creatively, internally to change our staffing makeup. One of his goals is by the time he retires to have a minimum of 5 officers staffed per shift, or 5 officers on the road. We're currently at 4. So a 5-year ask would be to add 5 additional officers. The reality is you could approve 5 right now. I can't hire 5. We're putting 5 in the academy. So this gentleman can leave anytime he wants. There'd be additional. So we could ask for 5, but the fact of the matter is it's going to be very, very difficult to get to that 5 over the course of 5 years. So that's kind of like the goal at hand.
Well, we just approved the academies to try to help you out to do that, right?
That's to get us up to staff.
Right. Oh, I
So
thought we
it's
approved
not-
like 2 more above that, didn't we?
No, the authorization, knowing that they can go forward and hire, knowing that we're going to have vacancies. The idea is just
Yeah,
a
so
temporary,
we-
it's a temporary authorization.
Right.
So the 5 that are going through, that will actually get us to our authorization. We have not gone above that yet. We're actually planning a hiring process right now for the academy coming up in January. So currently the 5 that are going to the academy are to get us to that authorized staff. But again, we have anticipated retirements coming up. The 5 that we just hired, they're not going to be on the road till May of next year.
One thing might be in your heads of like, oh, geez, are we looking at doubling this ask? No. Roughly, and we will get you more firm numbers depending on how this conversation goes, but we're estimating the total ask to be about 5.9 million, which the difference between 4.4 and 5.9 on the individual homeowners isn't that significant. That's why I'm recommending doing it all at once. Alderman Schrader.
So is that the best way to get more officers is to put them through training? Is there any other ways to get more seasoned officers that are reasonable?
We do offer lateral transfer programs, but that's what law enforcement is experiencing in general. Officer goes here for 2-3 years. I don't really like it. I'm going to go somewhere else. So now essentially the officer is kind of going where they want to go. So we can offer laterals. A lot of people look at many different things when it comes to the desirability of the municipality and or pay and or location. So we do take lateral transfers, but those people won't have to come and work or have an interest in wanting to serve the city of Muskego.
Is when we have the ones that go through the training, is there a bigger risk though that you put them all through training? Do we help fund that and then?
There's a risk to anybody you hire.
But is there more investment in the ones
Yes.
ahead of time?
Yes, so it goes 2 ways.
Because didn't we just hire one and
Yes,
then?
so there's a cost to it. However, the $5,000 or so that it costs to go through the academy is offset because they're not getting full salary. Well, they're only getting a fraction of it.
A new recruit essentially gets 75% of wages. The academy is reimbursed by the state when that officer graduates the academy. The academy now is 720 hours in the state of Wisconsin. So they have to go through that 720-hour program. Once they graduate, then they have to go through our FTO program. That's why it kind of takes a year to get somebody on board.
Sure.
So obviously a lateral that has those certifications already, they still have to go through an internal training process. But again, it takes time.
And almost every lateral that comes through, almost every, not all of them, is more seasoned. They're older. They're over 26. Let's just say that. And because of that, they're using our health insurance, which more times than not is a family plan. Almost every recruit we have is still on their parents' plan for the first few years that they're working for us. So that savings alone is significant. And then this is a philosophy I have that we as local government leaders need to start growing the pool that is out there, because local government as a whole, there's not enough clerks out there, there's not enough finance directors, there's not enough everything. And what we found us all doing the last few years is stealing from each other. I'm going to go steal from New Berlin. They're going to, New Berlin steals from Brookfield. Brookfield steals from Muskego. And it's just this ugly cycle. And at the end of the day, you don't have more police officers in the pool. And when you don't have more police officers in the pool and it gets harder to hire, you have a starting wage of over $100,000 a year versus $40,000 a year that was 20 years ago. Inflation is not all of that. Part of it is demand. And I think that we should all, as leaders, make an effort to try to grow the pool. And one way to do that is by putting more through the academy. That's just a soapbox thing, right? I'm saying right now, it doesn't mean it's just my philosophy.
And we also have to think about the longevity of the police department, where if we continue to hire people that have 5, 10, 15 years on, their longevity in this with us is gonna be less. So we also have to think about, the recruitment, retention, and replacement, because again, we're getting into an older demographic of officers, so we have to start thinking about retirements and the unknowns of people that just leave the industry together.
I know you guys have the cadets, the high school. Is there more that we could be doing with the high school for not only police, maybe even the fire, more kind of strategic?
So not only do we have the cadets, we're also partner with the high school, but they have the Connect Academy.
Right.
So it's like a week or two, one school is done. I believe they get credit from it, but they're part of the Connect Academy. They come to the police department and they get instruction through the high school.
It's like a mini academy
partnership
type
with
thing.
us.
Yeah. It sparks interest in it. So this was the first year we did it, right? Or the second year?
Second or third.
Okay, so.
And then we're continuing looking at different ways to, recruit. We're sending Jeff Sartorius, our community resource officer, across the state strategically during times of upcoming college graduations to attend job fairs. And, he was out Platteville last summer. We're also competing with Illinois for Platteville students. So we're trying to come up with creative ways, strategic ways to recruit and retain the best here.
So, any more input, or should we talk next steps? So
just one other question. So we granted 2 above for temporary,
correct.
Right? So going forward, do we need to consider that as well? Like, are we just going to say, okay, we're going to have, let's just say 50, right? We're always going to shoot for 50, or we're going to shoot for 53?
So our plan 55. Is to picture, a bad analogy, but you're shooting a BB gun at a target, and it's not this. It doesn't. So you aim above where you're shooting, hoping to hit the target. That's kind of what we're doing with the authorization. Is we're authorizing more that they can actually go out and try to hire, knowing that we're probably going to be losing some. So we hit that mark, and it's a gamble what we're doing.
And when it comes to academies, our hands are tied. There's one academy in July and there's one academy in January, and there's that WCTC. So we have to play that time frame as well.
You guys you don't use Gateway?
We can, but sometimes it's easier to keep people local, also depending where they come from. There's Gateway, there's MATC, Appleton, Fox Valley offers academies as well.
Tons of them,
but because we are a Waukesha County community, we get preferential, spots there. The other piece is academies are full because everyone's hiring. No one's putting I put myself through the academy, and I was one of 300 people that got hired when I applied here. That's not the case anymore. When you try and get academy seats, I have 2 seats at WCTC for the next 5 years, because if I don't have them, Menominee Falls is going to steal them, or Brookfield's going to steal them, or New Berlin's going to have them, or the Sheriff's Department's going to have them. So it's also an academy battle as well.
Alderman Bryce?
Deb, were you also wondering about the fire department with cadets? Was that part of your question when you asked Fonz? So they do have cadets that they have, and they put them through Fire 1 and Fire 2 and EMT. And then they usually end up leaving to go to full-time departments so they can start their career.
Chief Marty's done a good job of working with the high school. I know he's gotten, I can't remember. Tracy Blair's son is one of the success stories. Yeah, one of the success stories from things he's worked with. Yep.
Well, my question was, is there more that we could do? That's
yeah,
what
and
I
you know what? To answer your question,
more
yes, there's absolutely more we can do.
And even to get people to want to be clerks and help. I mean,
sure.
Just more we could do.
It's we're always learning, and we're always collaborating and finding new ways, and we're open to anything. But in the meantime, we are where we are on it. So, So what I would like to do is bring this back, this discussion next meeting with actual numbers. And, you know, we're not, what I'm asking you to do is allow us to ask the community. You're not making a decision on this stuff at the end, it's funding part. It's really letting the community weigh in on it. And I know it's an aggressive time frame, but I think, you know, I think we can do it. I think there's a need, you know, how we do it, you know, how we implement it and everything, that can all be working at the same time. But bottom line is you need the funding for it. So if the funding for it won't change, it's just a matter of how you implement it. So the idea is to bring it back next meeting and have further discussions on the actual referendum question, the impact and time frame on that. So are you guys okay with that? Alderman Schrader?
With all due respect, I still think there needs to be more discussion on really what, like he was the gentleman, Mr. Mack that spoke. He feels this is rushed and that there needs to be a better wrapping around what needs to be done rather than just jumping in feet forward. I mean, let's have all our ducks in the row for the community so we can have a great story and a great presentation and a great package and great ideas for the community. I just don't feel like, I feel like we got this last week and it's just very, like some other things that we've had on this council, very pressured, fast paced, got to do it, hurry up, it's an emergency. I just don't think this should be rushed in that capacity. That's my personal feeling on this.
Thanks for sharing that. I understand it. I'm not saying it's not quicker than I would like it. I would love more time on it. But the reality is, if we don't make this window, it's another 12 months, and I'm not sure we can afford that. Alderman Dilge?
Is there a benefit to consider when you talk about when to hold this referendum in a November election that's also got a ideally, you want the most community participation you can get,
November.
Which would be November. Right. So I'm wondering is that the consideration of why to say rush this in as opposed to do it in like an April?
So my reasoning for it is, for one, yes, you do get more people in November when I think it's the most transparent way of doing it. If you want to do another November, it's 2 years from now, you know, because there's not a November election in 2027. So that's one consideration, but the main part of it is that full year we would have to wait again. And that's just, I mean, that's pushing everything back 12 months. And I've got some serious concerns. If you read the study, it talks about what the real need is and why. Ask questions in the meantime, but you could become intimate with what the study says, because there's some big red flags there that while we're operating fine, there's vulnerabilities, I guess is the best way of putting it. And I don't want to be the one having to make a decision if one of those were to happen. Hopefully that doesn't, but that's not our job. We're supposed to be planning for the worst and hope for the best. Alderman Wolf.
As a former chief, I guess he left, was talking that between the volunteer department and the people he's involved with or whatever, he said he could come up with a plan. Did we even investigate any of that? I mean, I would think he's telling the truth there. I mean, he ran the volunteer fire department, right?
I would, in all due respect, I think we take the input from the existing department and their experience and their leadership, and we use that as part of the pie that we're making with a committee, and we hold that with great deference, that we make sure we value all that input. I mean, I'm trying to do this as a partnership with the existing stakeholders that are, you know, providing this wonderful service. But I think that's just one viewpoint on it, and we will, you know, it's going to hold a lot of weight. They're the ones doing it.
Was he involved with that, or he's not a stakeholder anymore, or?
He's on the department.
What's that?
He's on the department.
He's on the department.
Yes, he's one of the volunteers. He's one of those guys that run in the fires when we're running out, definitely. But
I mean, I don't know if the consultants talked with him at all, or,
I don't know who they all talked
I
to.
mean,
in the
he seems like a
department,
pretty experienced
but,
guy.
It's
It's been with,
Chief,
you know,
Chief Marty's here too, and
Yeah.
I would, no disrespect to former Chief Mack, I would take Chief Marty's input first because he's the current
most
chief.
current, right, I
Yes.
understand that. So I don't know if, I mean, hopefully they talk to you, I don't know who they talk to. That you have some of the same viewpoints that people on your volunteer department have. I don't know, if it's something that you would want to put together, or
So
or
we
not,
can't-
or, I mean, I don't know, you know.
We can't make this work without their cooperation, quite
Right, I
honestly.
understand that.
Because we need volunteers to still, be able to fill in those gaps, those huge gaps that we have initially. I mean, they're big. And if that doesn't happen, the alternative to that is, looking at a New Berlin or Franklin contract where they come in and take it off, but then that number is significantly bigger than what we're talking about.
Now, we were talking public safety in general, police, fire, EMT. We've heard from the chief, and I understand that he's a city employee, but we didn't hear from the fire chief on theirs. We didn't hear from the fire department in general on, sorry, not to throw you under the bus, on much or often, right? We know why the chief of the police is looking. We just had somebody explain it from that. We don't hear anything from the fire department. Again, not to throw you under the bus, just keep doing the job you guys are doing out to, which I appreciate. But the input is huge for us up here, sitting up here, because we're not experienced public safety people. And we're looking to go to a referendum like that, and we hire a firm and we hope they're professional and they do their job. I mean, that's why we hire them, right? But then we kind of have a lot of other things that we don't understand and ask a lot of questions on. So I guess, make it short, are we going to hear from the fire department on this before we make a decision?
I would encourage you to have conversations with them.
Yeah, but in case, I think of transparency of the people that are going to fund the bill.
These are volunteers, and not all of them are comfortable saying things at public meetings. So yeah, I would encourage you to have a conversation with them, and they're going to be frank with you. And they're not all,
Can we
can we
do a closed session with them?
No,
We can't.
no.
Okay.
So, yes.
I would be happy to share a few comments.
Sure, but you got to do it to the microphone. Yes. Phil, can you identify yourself and address when you go up?
Well, good evening. My name is Phil Dibb, prior chief on Test Corners, still on Test Corners, currently on the board of directors. So some of the things I'm going to share with you are from those perspectives. This has been talked about before. I was one of them that was interviewed through Paul. And all of our conversations with that committee or the consultants is we need help now. Not 5 years from now, you have 12 people on. We are running very thin. We have many paramedics in our department who fail to run calls. We've paid for them, we put them on through school, and they opted not to continue going on calls. So what does that mean? Other EMTs and paramedics are picking up the slack, and they're getting burned out, just like you've heard everybody else getting burned out. So something needs to happen. It needs to happen next year. We got to put more people on paid on call status, whatever you want to call it, but the volunteers are not coming forward. We have people in school. Paramedic is a tough school to get through. People can get an EMT and get hired somewhere, Bell, whatever. His aspect of having 12 full-time people on, in the last 2 weeks, you would have had no fire service. We have multiple rescue calls at the same time. 2 calls, 3 calls. Sometimes 4 calls at the same time is not unheard of. So that's 8 people needed just for rescue. And the majority of our calls are people have fallen. We have a lot of nursing homes. We have a lot of facilities that the staff will not pick anybody up off the floor. We're going to that. You look at our numbers, over 2,000 calls. The other night, we had the fatal car accident. We had 3 ambulances transporting 3 people. We had extrication. We had 2 fire engines on there, plus a crash rescue vehicle. There's probably 17, 18 people, and you're going to put on 4 or 5 with the commander. The volunteers are aging out. I mean, I've been on 53 years, and I'm still the guy who gets up at 2 in the morning for that 2nd and 3rd rescue call because nobody else does. We have volunteers who turn their pager off at 10 o'clock, turn it back on at 8 o'clock when they get out of bed. That's the game we're playing. That's the people we have. And sad to say, there's not different people coming forward. We do have a couple of youngins that want to get on full-time departments. As the report says, we give them that opportunity. We pay for all their school. You mentioned Blair as an example. Excellent volunteer, and he's gone. So on the average, if we have somebody that follows that track 4 to 5 years, we can make use of the volunteer, and then they're gone. Unless they're still living in the city, and then we have full-time departments who have rules that they cannot belong to a volunteer department, can't belong to another ambulance service, because they're worried about people lifting a patient, hurting their back, their insurance is paying for it. So it's a tough fight. We'd be sitting great if every one of our 50-plus volunteers volunteered. Somebody made the comment, I think Paul did, 10% of the 90% do all the work. I'm not beating my heart that I've run a lot of calls, but I mean, I've got called at 2 in the morning, can you show up? On my phone. I get out of bed and go. There's a lot of people standing here doing the exact same thing. But our call volume has increased so much. We're going to need to put more paid on call people. We don't have the funds. Obviously, you don't have the funds. But something needs to be done. And somebody made the comment, if 2 of us get hit by a bus, we're in rough shape. There's no other way around it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification, just for me too, because I had reached out and tried to have a conversation in regards to some of this fire stuff, and that never happened. The volunteers, a volunteer, you get paid, correct? You're a volunteer, but you're still getting paid, correct? But you're just no insurance. Could you just clarify so everybody understands how that works?
We can. So, a firefighter gets paid $15 to go on a fire call.
That's $15, not per hour, correct?
That's $15 for the call.
Right.
Okay.
Okay? 3 hours, $15. If it goes more than 5 hours, you get paid $10 an hour. Which storm times, those kinds of things happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In order to have EMTs actually run through the night, if you're on call, you're paid $7.50 an hour to sit at home.
Mm-hmm.
Then if there's a call, you get paid $15 for the call. So the $750 is essentially making you show up, if you want to call it that. So we have people saying, well, if that was $20, I would run. But it's not worth it for $750. It's all about the money. And it's interesting because as you go through the different age groups, I think everybody knows, once you're under 50, there's a whole different aspect of when I'm going to do something for money.
Yeah. And there's no like pension or anything, they're just volunteer and that's it.
No, so you can ask my wife all the pants I've ruined, shoes I've ruined. It comes out of my pocket.
And they don't,
Right.
no uniform, nothing, you have to pay for all that?
Right. When I ruined my suit one night, it's out of my pocket.
Oh, because you get a call and you're in your
Yeah, I
suit?
left there at a restaurant and went on a call. That's the way it goes.
It's a stipend, I don't call it getting paid.
No, they're volunteering, so.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's a volunteer.
I just wanted clarity on that.
No,
'cause
right.
Fair
Right.
question, and I'm glad you asked.
We tried the pension, we tried to get into the pension thing a number of years ago, and it took a cash input from the city, and the city would not pay for it, so it's never happened. But that's the way it is.
Alderman Dilge?
Hi. I appreciate you taking questions. You and I
I've been
sat.
kicked 3 times, I should have been up here before, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
besides
that's
the
right.
point.
So as you started your discussion there, you emphasized that something needs to change now. After sitting here and hearing the presentation, I don't know if you had a chance to read through it prior or not. Is there a recommended plan to kind of phase in levels of this, and at 5 years, 12 full-time firefighters, and then fill in the gaps with paid on-call? Is that acceptable from your perspective?
I do not see that working.
Okay.
For a number of reasons. First of all, the hiring of the 12 people, which I believe should be 30, but that's just, that's way too far out there. For an example, we had the major fire call. 60% of the people from our department were over 65 years old. What does that tell you? We had a couple of guys that got beat to hell in the heat because the 65-year-old's not going into fire. And we were very fortunate. We have a couple of guys who own contracting companies. They dropped their business and came because it was reported as a working fire. If that was a alarm ringing, they're gonna stop their business, right? And so that's one of the things is that, so we have things that are called service calls. My CO alarm's going off 2:30 in the morning. You know who shows up? The 65-year-olds. No big deal. We can put batteries in, we can do all that stuff. But if there's fire coming out of the house, different story. So the aging out process on the individuals on the department is a major concern, which is why we've talked about this for a number of years. This is not something that came up yesterday. It's finally getting traction, but so, if we look at, we have to put on more paid on call people, we're out of cash. We cannot afford any wages, and that's just part-time wages. Our people that sit there during the day are paid on premise people. They start at 5 a.m., they go to 6 p.m. Typically, we have 5 or 6, normally 5 on in a day. Those people cannot handle all the calls. They're being backed up with volunteers because there's multiple calls. There are days that it's difficult to get 4 people on, sometimes 3, because nice weather, I'm on vacation, you name it, because it's a part-time job for them. I don't want to work this week. And that's the reality we live in.
Thank you.
So just to get down into that a little bit more, the other gentleman said 32 people and you're saying 30, so that's pretty similar.
Yeah.
But what is your biggest need? What are your most calls? Is it the EMTs? Is it, what would your biggest need be?
Rescue is the largest number of calls on the department.
Okay.
So, Marty, 2,400 last year? 2,200? 2,200 calls last year. And our record right now is holding that same number. So they're not going down. And we have a lot of old people here.
So I guess.
And we have many frequent flyers. Some 6 times a week.
Well, that's kind of what I was kind of getting into when I questioned the data in the report. Like, what is the demographic? What's our need? What's our real need for servicing our community, as it is an aging community? And you said most of the things are falls. And so how can we best serve and do this with the best serve the stakeholders?
Well, you need to provide the service, correct?
Correct.
So that takes people, trained people,
Firefighters are more EMTs is what I'm hearing?
So today's model in the full-time department is one person is trained to do both.
Okay.
So it's a firefighter paramedic typically is.
Okay.
And Paul's report really did the same thing. He said, if you're going to hire anybody, they're going to be a firefighter paramedic so they can do either job.
Okay.
So today I could rescue somebody, tonight I could put out a fire. Our model that we have is not that way. We have a number of people who only run fire. And we have a number of people who only run rescue. And then we have a large number of people who run both. And they can wear 2 hats. So Marty's done an outstanding job on making use of the force we have. And standing next to Marty is Sasha, who does the scheduling to keep people on duty and start sending out those emails. We need coverage on Sunday from 6 a.m. till noon or whatever it happens to be. And sometimes there's 8 messages coming out for the same opening because nobody's picking it up.
So you are realistically, it would be 30 cross-trained that can do both, ideally.
Ideally.
So this.
But that's going to take time to get there. Don't get me, you're not going to do that. I shared this in the discussions we've had with the mayor. January, I need more paid on call people. You're not going to be able to hire them full time. We're not going to be able to do that. But I need people that we're going to pay a wage to that are going to come sit at the station.
Which is kind of what I talked about earlier with we'll get the money for 5 years. If we're successful in a referendum, we would get the money that we need for 5 years out. In the meantime, we have this extra pool of funds that we can use for different things. And in my memo, I talked about that, where we up the contract with Test Corners, which allows them to do things like that in the meantime to get us through as that transition period.
So we have an interesting, as we've talked about a number of things. So we're a private corporation with a board of directors And it's no different than, say, GFL. How do you dissolve and then merge it into something different? How do you flip the switch? Is it like buying a house that you're going to have a closing at noon and everything happens? I doubt it. I mean, I can guarantee you that. But there are a lot of things that are in that dissolution agreement that are, I'll call it, important. The name is probably the most important thing. You know, the 100 years of the name. There are people on the department who has had relatives since day one. There's a lot in the blood. So,
And a lot of respect, there's a lot of nostalgia, and again, we love you guys. But I mean, again, and I know I feel what you're saying about you need something yesterday, but I also want to be mindful of doing the right thing and not just rushing into doing anything and, ham hocking it, I guess.
It's sad to say, I definitely agree with the mayor. You don't have time. You don't have time to push this off a year. I can guarantee you that. So, unless you got cash hidden somewhere, you want to take a $5 million loan out, whatever you want to do, we need some money. And it's got to come from somewhere. Now, maybe we can take a $5 million loan out and you assume the debt. Make that work too. I don't think you'd like that, but the corporation could do that.
And it wouldn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
No.
And I think that's why we're having the discussion,
Absolutely.
right? But if push came to shove and we can't provide service, we got to look at options.
Absolutely.
Because we're not letting it die.
I just don't want you guys to get killed doing it in the meantime, because.
Right.
Well, nobody does. And when does, when there's, multiple events happening or a fire is so big or accident so big, when does it facilitate getting backup or help from other departments? When does that come into play?
So early on, so for an example, let's just use today's call as an example. You want to take 2 seconds and
Sure.
discuss that?
Yeah.
Okay. So today's call came in as a working, fully engulfed barn fire. So that's what it came across the phones and the pagers. So our first officer who came out of Station 4, just on his way home from work, gets there, reports what's going on, calls for a box alarm. Has a specific understanding what the box is. It was already been talked on the radio from the other officers. The box got pulled. We have no hydrants in the area. We need tankers. So tankers are our water supply. So in that whole midst, we have people who at McDonald's leaving their kids with their wife, no car, took off for the fire. We have the 3 guys who are in contracting who leave the mowers, sit in the place that they were cutting, and they take off. We have a guy going in to get a hearing aid battery replaced at the hearing aid store. He leaves. Those are the people who are coming back to Muskego or in Muskego to do what they love doing. Plus the people who are at the station, people like myself who are at home. There are a number of us who are at home. Andy Mack, who left here, he's one at home. We all came to the station, did our job. In fact, I think probably every firefighter in here was there today. So we had a very good turnout. Our guys got beat to hell. We did the job, and the customer's happy. But that's the kind of thing that happens in a volunteer department. When you have this as a full-time department, you're only going to be pulling from the people, no different than the police officers who's on duty.
Phil, could you explain to the alderman of, like today's call, you had other departments come and assist. What's the process on that? I think that was part of her
Yeah,
your
that's
question.
what I
Sure.
was, yeah.
So you called the box, right? You want to explain what box you called?
Right, so as soon as I heard it was a working still or a working fire in a barn, I knew it was going to need a lot of tenders there for water, so talked to the other officer on scene, the Station 15 officer. We agreed to go to a box alarm, and what that is essentially doing is now you're transferring from our dispatch center to WCC. Are you all familiar with WCC? I'm sure you have. WCC then starts to handle it. Again, now we're talking about a dispatch issue where our dispatchers are being overwhelmed because of all the resources we need. WCC starts to send the resources our way and kind of takes control of the situation. That kind of frees our dispatchers up a little bit. It's kind of a snafu system, the way we do it like that. But that's essentially what happened. We passed the buck so that we can get more resources from everybody. And that's if they can provide the resources. A lot of times, a neighboring department can't provide what we're asking for, and they just have to go on the line.
So the mutual aid system is pretty much what he said. They determined what they needed. The beauty is that Mike's a full-time firefighter somewhere else. Some of our other people who are on the call, full-time firefighters, other places, they've got it in their blood. And so they call for that help. Every piece of equipment that came to that call today, we didn't touch. We didn't take a drop of their water. All we did was take all their manpower. So all of the people who came in gear, they replaced our guys who needed to have rehab. And the tick, so we have a infrared gun that looks at the temperatures, okay? So in the bottom of that barn, it was 1,100 degrees. The guys are in there. In their gear.
Coming out to 90 plus, 95 plus degrees to cool
To
off.
cool off, exactly. So our rescue people, you know, when they heard it was a working fire, they're grabbing all the rehab waters. They had a whole medical section set up, defibrillator, to monitor the heart rates, all that stuff. The person who owned the place brought out lawn chairs so that they could sit down. But all of our mutual aid companies who came in, we just used manpower. We were fortunate where the call was. Station 4 has an excellent group of retired people. They had 2 people who were on vacation who came to the fire. They were on, water was on that fire very, very quickly. Had we waited from if the engine had to come from Station 1 all the way past Dunoon School to where the fire was, it would have been significantly different outcome.
Alderman Madden.
It's been many, many years since we started this conversation, hasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And I agree, we should have continued, and it kept getting put off, and we can't put it off anymore. They need help. They need help now. We know we can't give them 30 guys at once, and they know that too. But they know we can start working on that and getting them the help they need.
You know, and I mentioned this, within the board of directors, some of our hope is that some of the fair weather individuals might help out more with more cash. It seems sad to say that, but if that's what it takes, I'm all for it. Anybody else have any questions?
I do want to thank you for not only what you said tonight, but, you know, for what you guys do for us every day. And I know it's not just you, Phil, but I know you and Marty are, you know, a big part of that department and cover a lot of this. And, you know, the average citizen has no idea, and they should. They really should. You guys are heroes.
So my last comment is add another 2 million to the fire department. Ask for it now because you'll never get it later.
I had one more question. Just, I know we have the 4 stations, and you said because of the one was able to help out. I mean, isn't that always kind of the case, that you might have one a little farther away and it might be more of a strategic issue?
Yeah, I think it doesn't take anything. I shouldn't say this. It's very reasonable to understand that the faster you get to somebody's call, the better off they are. No matter if it's an EMS case
Right.
or a fire call, it really doesn't have an impact. I mean, the faster you get there, the outcome will always be better than too late.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just want to add that I appreciate hearing from the fire department. So, you know, it gives us a little more insight to what we're trying to accomplish with you guys, or as a team, as a city. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are we okay coming back next meeting and talking about this seriously, about moving forward sooner? We can argue if I'm not saying you're agreeing that we're going to move forward sooner, but I think we need a dedicated meeting, get the word out there, let the public come, watch, give their input, throw tomatoes at us, whatever. But I think we've kicked this can down as far, it's hitting a wall and coming back at us at this point. And we've enjoyed being the lowest taxed community probably in southeastern Wisconsin. And I'll tell you, looking at the numbers, if this referendum were successful, we still will be. That's how much lower we are than everywhere else. And I don't want to spend money for the sake of spending money, but if you can't justify public safety as a reason to raise your taxes, then you're just a no person with no solution. And I don't think you guys are that.
And I think our job is to fix something that's broken or not fix something that's not broken.
Yeah.
So that's our hard decisions we have to come up with.
Right. And at the end of the day, we're asking the community to make the decision. We just want to present it to them. And I agree, this isn't ideal timing. It would be nice to have, a year to prepare for this. We just don't have that. So, Alderman Schrader, you had something?
Well, I was going to say that there have been several of us that have wanted to get this on the agenda many times. It's not something that we've wanted to put off, and I think the discussions need to happen. I definitely think that, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to have a referendum, but again, the community can decide. I just think if we're going to do one, that we shouldn't do it with half the information. I think we need to be fully informed and have the discussions. Like you said, we need to have the discussions. We need to have the input and the discussions.
And I will come back next meeting with a timeline and a layout of how that will all happen. Anything else on this? Anything else from you guys? Mrs. Dibb. You have to use the microphone. I'm sorry. You have a TV audience that just wants to hear you.
How to do this. Okay, there we go. My name is Mary Dibb. I've been married to Phil for 51 years and 53 years of dating and 53 years of being a firefighter's wife at home. I think the one simple fact that maybe would bring this all together is we need personnel. And in today's world, and I'm looking at everybody here, and I know your kids, I'm teaching them, you all have kids who are growing up and looking for jobs. And their sustainable job that they're looking for is a job that has full-time work, full-time benefits. And we cannot offer that And that's why sometimes you hear, even on the police department and fire department, people are trained. They stay with us for a few years, but they then take that job that has the full-time pay and the full-time benefits. And that's where we're at right now. We're bottlenecked in that we don't have that. If we had that, then we would probably be able to add to our personnel and to be staying, and so that the 73-year-olds aren't running rescue calls and fire calls. But we need to have something that is sustainable for kids. I know I have a grandchild who wants to grow up and be a police officer, a firefighter, and they want to work on Papa's department. But that can't be something they're going to live on forever. So let's make it a department people can get hired for and stay here because they are receiving the benefits that they deserve for a full-time department and can continue to serve.
Thank you. And with that note, we need a motion to go into closed session to discuss our next item. Yeah, I'm like that. Oh, yeah.
You want me to read it?
Can you read the motion to closed session?
Do you mean the?
Yeah.
Following conclusion of consideration of the above portion of its regularly scheduled agenda, the Common Council will meet to vote on a motion to convene in closed session for discussion or action relative to the following: discussion of medical, social, or personal histories of an employee and or dependent, and to take such further action as may be appropriate with respect to such matters. A closed session for the above purpose is authorized pursuant to the provisions of the following Wisconsin statutes. 1. WisStat Section 19.85 Sub 1 Sub F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations. 2. WisStat Chapter 19.85 Sub 1 Sub G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Upon conclusion of the closed session, the Common Council will reconvene in open session to consider its public agenda, including motions to recommend approval or rejection of the above listed deliberations or any of the public agenda items that have not been acted upon.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Before the council goes into convene for closed session, I have a point of order to ask if this is in regards to me.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Alderperson Wolf.
Yes.
Alderperson Hamel.
Yes.
Alderperson Bellows.
Yes.
Alderperson Bryce.
Yes.
Alderperson Schrader.
Yes.
Alderperson Dilge.
Yes.
Alderperson Madden.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. We're in closed session. We will only be coming out of closed session for the purposes of adjournment. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.